Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Dear CSS aspirants, I'm damn sure you would be okay. In today's session, I'm going to differentiate between two terms. One is sex and other is gender. And if you're going to have a look over your syllabus that has been designed by FPSC, so again, in your syllabus, these two terms, they have been incorporated, okay? And if you're going to have a look over the past papers, so definitely there is a question like the difference between women's studies and gender studies. Although in next video, I'm going to throw more light on this difference. What is the difference between women's studies and gender studies? But in today's session, I'm going to restrict myself for these two terms, sex as well as gender. So even examiner is going to merge these two topics as well, the difference between women's studies and gender studies, or you can say the difference between sex and gender, as to what extent you can say nature versus nurture roles. So these two terms, again, they are going to be more associated with this topic as well. Normally, whenever you're going to use in daily life, these two terms are going to be used interchangeably as well. For example, if you are going to ask someone about the identity, so you can say, what is your sex? The other person says, I am a male, I am a female. On the other hand, if you say, what is your gender? So again, that person is going to assume that definitely you are more interested in knowing the sex of that person. Although you are going to use the word gender, what is your gender? But the answer would remain same. That person would say, yes, I am a male, I am a female, I would be, I have been given identity as an intersex as well. So the purpose of telling this, that these two terms, they could be used interchangeably in our daily lives as well as in academia as well. But still, there is a difference if you're talking of the clear-cut meaning. So you can say, yes, they are not same. Both, they are entirely different. They're going to give different meanings. They're going to create different realities. So they are not same at all. In academia, till 1970s, these two terms, they were going to be considered as they were going to be used as a one term, and they were going to indicate the same meanings. But when a women's study was going to get introduced in academia in 1960s, at that time that debate got more developed, and at that time it got realized that these two terms are not same at all. Both these two terms, they could be taken in different perspectives. Okay, so sex gives you, basically, when you're talking of a sex gives you identity. And whatever the identity you have, accordingly certain expectations and certain roles which are going to get associated with that identity, that is known as a gender. Okay, for example, when a baby comes to this world, the first thing is that you're going to assign identity. Okay, what would be the identity? You can say that this baby would be given identity as a male or a female, and you could talk of intersex. Okay, so sex gives you identity. And okay, now you have decided that this baby is a male. So what would be the expectation? Expectation would be that the baby is going to get wrapped in a blue blanket. Okay, and again, you could say if you have to give toys to that baby, so definitely you're going to give, for example, cars, guns, okay, and at the same time you're going to give kurta and things like this. And if the baby has been assigned identity as a female, so accordingly the expectations are different. For example, maybe you're going to give pink shoes, and you're going to wrap the baby in a pink blanket as well. Okay, at the same time, the room decoration, being a male baby, a female baby, entirely it would be in a different context as well. So these expectations, they are not just assigned for a particular time. Those expectations, they're going to be continued throughout your life, unless you're going to have the same identity. Okay, at the same time, when individuals, they get mature, again, that on the basis of their identity, their expectations, they're going to be divided in different zones as well. That male, they're going to be considered as a breadwinner, and females, they're going to be considered as a homemaker. Okay, since you have been given an identity as a male, so society believes that you have a better administrative skills, you have a more managerial skills, and you can be given more opportunity in terms of some sort of field work. And since you have been given identity as a female, so that's why you can be engaged in kitchen related affairs, and you are going to be recruited for certain desk oriented work. Like you can talk of you can, as a receptionist, then you could talk of as a secretary. That is just you have to communicate, and as such there is no physical exertion is involved in it. And if you have been given identity as an intersex, so again, normally what sort of professions they're going to opt, on the basis of which they are going to generate income, since they have been given identity as a intersex. So that's why they're going to get encouraged just for bagging, and just to get an just to take more interest in some sort of more entertainment activities through which they're going to generate income, because society is not going to accept in other professions as well. Similarly, since you have been given identity as a male, so that's why society believes that you can act as a security guard, and you could be having this opportunity where you are going to drive car very well. Since you have been given identity as a female, so that's why you're going to be considered more appropriate in managing your household activities, rather than just taking more interest in some sort of field work. Okay, so this is the expectation, and normally these expectations, they could be in your social sphere, they could be in your economic sphere, they could be in your political sphere as well. Since you have been given identity as a male, so that's why society believes that you can handle the issues of your constituency in a more rightful way as compared to a female. And since you have been given identity as a male, so that's why you can perform your services very well and decently, nicely in a legal field, as well as in enforcing rules and regulations. And since you have been given identity as a female, so that's why you can't take more instant decisions, and you can't have some sort of more leadership skills, and you can't think out of the box. So it doesn't mean that if you have been given identity as a male or female, so that's why you are deprived of having those skills. But this is a society that once identity has been assigned to an individual, accordingly the expectations and accordingly those roles, they're going to get associated with that identity as well. I'm not talking of the natural abilities. I'm talking of some sort of more social opportunities. Okay, so you can say sex that gives you identity, that is on the basis of natural differences, because that could be on the basis of genitalia. You know very well that basically there are the five biological determinants on the basis of which male they are going to distinguish themselves from female, or you could say they are going to consider different as compared to intersex on the basis of genitalia. Okay, on the basis of chromosomes, then you could have gonads, secondary sex characteristics, okay, and hormones. Got it? So you can say sex is on the basis of biological differences, and this is something that is unplanned. That is not something that is in your control. So this is something that identity was given by the nature rather than by the society. And sex is universal. Wherever you go, you have been known either a male, either a female, either intersex as well. Okay, and since on the basis of sex, you are going to give an identity just in three ways, either a male, female, intersex. That's why you can say that it has a more limited scope, and it has a narrow approach. But when you're talking of the gender, since the genders, they are the expected roles, okay, and these are the societal expectations which are going to get associated with that identity. So they're going to be considered more flexible rather than having more rigidity in terms of the sex. So gender, since gender is the cultural expectations, and you know very well that culture is a more dynamic in nature. Although culture is also universal, but culture has a more adaptive nature, and it is going to get changed with the passage of time as well. The best example is like initially face covering that was going to get more associated with the boys. Okay, that was more associated with the girls. Okay, but after COVID-19, even face covering is also going to get accepted for the boys as well. So it means this is something, because this is expectation that was initially that was designed by the society. So at the same time, if society believes that this expectation needs to get changed, so definitely that expectation can be amended further as well. At the same time, when you're talking of the gender, like in Pakistani society, initially you can say women, they were going to consider more suitable in terms of performing the household activities and the domestic role as a homemaker. But now again, there's expectation as well that society has got more awareness, and because of your economic concerns and some other concerns as well, now even women, they're going to take a more administrative role as well, and that is totally accepted. Initially in our society, mostly boys, they were going to get encouraged to go for education institutions, and then they're going to have more improvement in the capacity building. But as well as the women, as well as the girls, they were concerned. So normally they were not going to be given opportunity to have access to education institutions. But no, this is okay. Not necessarily that since you have been given identity as a male, so that's why this is your first right to have access to education institutions and to have some sort of inheritance from the, to have more share in inheritance as well. So no, if you're talking of the educated parents, so definitely they're going to provide equal share in inheritance, and they're going to spend equally on education and on the medical services as well for women as well. So this is no more the difference in opportunities just on the basis of sex. Okay, and since the gender is the cultural expectations, and the cultural expectations, they are going to get changed from society to society. So whatever the expectations they are attached with the men or women or intersex in Pakistan, not necessarily those expectations they're going to get repeated in even Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You could talk of United States or Germany and United Kingdom, thing like this. So you can say they're going to have more flexibility, and they're going to get changed with the passage of time as well. And since in sex there's a more, you can say it is on the basis of the natural parameters. Okay, and the sex is something that is going to get decided by the nature. But when you to the gender, so gender is not on the basis of the natural expectations. This is entirely on the basis of societal expectations. Got it? So that was the difference between sex and gender. Although I'm going to repeat it, although we are going to use these terms interchangeably, but being a student of gender studies, you need to have better understanding between these two terms, that sex and gender, they are not same, they are entirely different. So if I'm going to sum up the topic, I would say sex gives you identity on the basis of which how you're going to be recognized in society, either a male or female or intersex. And once the identity has been assigned to you, what is the cultural expectation? What is the societal expectation against your role? That is the gender. Okay. The example could be like, because makeup, if you're talking about the makeup, so makeup is more associated with the female because it is okay. But when you're talking of the boys, again, that might not be okay. And at the same time, if you're talking of the boys, so maybe the short hair, that could be okay, but the short hair, that could not be okay for female, although it is going to get changed as well. But generally, I'm talking of in a traditional society. Okay, so at the same time, if you're talking of some sort of, for example, if you say that if you have to gender politics, so being a male, it might be okay, and door-to-door campaign, that is quite acceptable. And even you're going to launch this door-to-door campaign even at night, that could be okay. But for female, that might not be okay. So this is entirely, that is on the basis of societal decisions. Similarly, since you are male, and if you go for your own right to marriage, and you're going to decide you're going to take this decision independently, that might be okay. But if you're talking of a female, so if a female is going to take this decision independently, unfortunately, she might be killed in the name of honor. And you know very well that in our societies, such cases, they're going to get reported as well. Okay. And similarly, when you're talking of the Isra attacks, so again, female, if she's going to take a more independent decision, and she's going to refuse the offer of a male, so it is quite possible, unfortunately, that although the government has enacted various laws, we are going to have another session for this as well on honor killing. And you know very well, Sharmeen Obaid has also compiled a documentary on the basis of which she got Oscar award as well. I'm going to have another session on Sharmeen Obaid as well, don't worry. So that was a difference, that since you are male, so the criteria being a good or bad is entirely different. And since you have given identity as a female, so the criteria being, so the criterion for getting involved in a particular activity, that could be entirely different. And for intersex, it could be entirely different. I hope it would be clear. Still, if you have any confusion, please feel free to comment, and I'm going to make next video on that topic. Thank you very much.